The rain outside the diner window was not ordinary rain. It was Los Angeles crying. The kind of rain that floods the canyons and swallows the highways, and reminds this city that beneath all the sunshine and ambition, it is still just dirt and borrowed time. Inside, the booths were empty. The coffee was cold, and Tawana, a 26-year-old black woman with tired eyes and a red apron worn thin at the strings, was wiping down the counter for the last time before closing. She wasn't supposed to still be here, but the woman who stumbled through the door changed everything, and the man who came looking for her would change the rest. Tawana heard the bell above the door before she saw her. Small, frail, soaking through layers of expensive wool that the rain had turned into a second skin. Silver hair plastered flat, eyes wide and searching, the way eyes get when a mind has wandered somewhere far from the body carrying it. The old woman stood in the doorway like she had washed up from somewhere else entirely. Tawana didn't think. She moved. That was always her problem, her mother used to say. Moving before thinking, feeling before calculating. In a world that rewarded women like her for shrinking, Tawana had always taken up too much space with her heart. She rounded the counter, crossed the floor. "Don't move, ma'am. Come here, sit down." The woman looked at her like she was trying to remember a word in a language she used to speak. Her lips were blue pale. Her hands were shaking so violently the rings on her fingers clinked together like wind chimes. Tawana guided her to the booth closest to the kitchen vent, didn't ask permission, didn't wait for paperwork, just put her hand on the woman's arm and said, "You're safe," the same way she used to say it to her little sister during thunderstorms. She brought warm towels, then broth, then the heavy blanket she kept in her locker for the nights the last bus didn't come, and she had to sleep in the storage room rather than walk home through Inglewood at 2 a.m. The woman ate slowly, both hands on the bowl, eyes slowly clearing. "He will come," the woman whispered, her English thin but precise. "My son. He always finds me." Tawana covered her hands with her own. "Then we'll wait for him together." She locked the front door, turned off the neon sign, and sat across from a stranger in a closed diner while Los Angeles drowned outside and the rain erased the world one streetlight at a time. She did not know what she had started. She did not know that by morning, her entire life would be unrecognizable. The sunrise over Los Angeles came sideways, filtered through a sky still choked with clouds. The rain had slowed to a mist, the kind that gets into your lungs and stays. Tawana woke with her cheek on the table, neck stiff, coffee cold. The old woman across from her was breathing peacefully, wrapped in the blanket, her silver hair finally dry. Tawana stood, stretched, and walked to the window to check the flooded street. What she saw stopped her cold. 5 black SUVs lined the curb in perfect formation, engines running, exhaust rising in the mist like smoke from something burning. The vehicles were spotless. Wrong for this neighborhood, wrong for this hour, wrong for this universe. The doors opened in unison. Men in dark suits stepped out, moving with the kind of synchronized precision that wasn't trained. It was bread, 14 of them at minimum, spreading across the sidewalk with terrifying quiet efficiency. Tawana stepped back from the window. Her heart was in her throat. The front door rattled once, then the glass shattered. Not broken, removed, with one precise heavy strike that left the frame intact and the lock useless. The sound cracked through the empty diner like a gunshot. The old woman woke with a gasp. Tawana crossed to her instantly, stood in front of her, hands trembling, chin raised. The men filled the diner doorway and then parted, and he walked in. Tall, perhaps 32, a face that had been built for beauty and then hardened into something more dangerous than beauty. Long cashmere coat over a dark suit, eyes that absorbed light rather than reflected it. He moved through the diner the way powerful men move through every room, like the room was built for him and everyone else was furniture. His name was Mihu, and Tawana had never seen anyone who frightened her more. His eyes swept the space, locked onto the booth, onto the 2 women, and in the absolute silence that followed, Tawana did the only thing she knew how to do. She stood her ground. "She's okay," Tawana said, her voice steadier than she felt. She was freezing. I gave her soup and somewhere dry to sleep. Mihu's gaze shifted from her face to her red apron, to the makeshift bed, to the empty bowl on the table. "Move," he said. One word. The floor practically vibrated. "She's still resting," Tawana replied. "You can wait." The silence that followed was the loudest thing she had ever heard. Then behind her, the old woman's voice came soft and broken with relief. "Mihuya." The transformation was instant and total. The warlord cracked open. The sun came through. Mihu moved past Tawana without force, but with an unstoppable gravity, and knelt beside his mother. He took her hands in both of his, checked her fingers for damage, touched her forehead, spoke to her in rapid low Korean. His mother gestured toward Tawana, mimed the blanket, the soup, the long night. Mihu stood slowly, turned back. The tenderness was already gone. In its place was something colder, something calculating. He looked at Tawana with the focused attention of a man repricing something he had underestimated. "You stayed all night," he said. Not a question. "Yes." "You could have called police. You could have put her outside." "I could have," Tawana agreed. "I didn't." Mihu stepped closer, close enough that she could smell rain on expensive wool and something beneath it, cold metal, or maybe just the scent of a man who had lived too long in the dark. "My enemies tracked her here," he said quietly. "They know what you look like now. They know your name. By tonight you will be a target." Tawana's blood went cold. "I'm telling you this so that what I offer next does not sound like cruelty," Mihu continued. "I do not leave debts unpaid. You saved the only life in this world I cannot replace. There is only one way to protect you from what your kindness has now cost you." He held her gaze with absolute steadiness. "You will become my wife." The rain hit the broken door. The men behind him didn't move. His mother closed her eyes. And Tawana understood that her life, as she had known it, was already gone. Right now, before we go further, drop your city in the comments. Where are you watching from? Los Angeles? Lagos? London? Accra? Atlanta? Let me see you. And if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that button right now, because this story does not slow down from here. Subscribe, hit the bell, keep watching. The penthouse was 52 floors above Los Angeles. From this height, the city looked like a circuit board, ordered, predictable, controlled. Nothing like what Tawana had known of it from the ground. Her wing of the apartment was larger than anywhere she had ever lived. Closets filled with clothes in her exact size, a detail that should have been flattering but instead felt like evidence that Mihu had already decided everything before she arrived. She refused to disappear into it. Every morning she spent time with Mrs. Park, who had recovered fully, and who played cards with Tawana at the kitchen island, her small, warm hands shuffling the deck with practiced ease, speaking in a mixture of Korean and careful English, about a boy who had carried too much weight for too long and forgotten how to put any of it down. 3 weeks in, on a night when the city below was glittering and the chef had prepared something technically perfect and completely soulless, Tawana took over the kitchen. She didn't hear Mihu come home. When she turned from the stove, he was standing in the doorway. Jacket off, collar open, a bruise darkening along his neck that he hadn't bothered to explain or hide. He looked at her the way a man looks at something he doesn't have a category for. She slid a bowl across the counter without a word. "Eat," she said. "You look like the fight won." He sat down, took a bite. Something in his face shifted, not softened exactly, but settled. The way a house settles after a long storm. "Why haven't you tried to leave?" he asked. Tawana leaned against the counter. "Your mother needs someone. And honestly, out there your enemies are looking for me. In here at least the danger has a face." The ghost of something moved across Mihu's expression, almost a smile. "Most people in your position would be demanding things," he said. "I'm not most people," she replied. "And this isn't most positions." They held each other's gaze for a moment longer than necessary. Then both looked away. Neither of them named what that was. The invitation was gold embossed on black card, a charity gala, Mihu's world performing civilization for a single evening. Tawana stood before the mirror in deep crimson velvet, a diamond necklace cold against her throat. She had worn a red apron for 3 years in a diner where people looked through her like she was part of the furniture. Tonight she looked like a warning. When she walked into the main hall, Mihu stopped adjusting his cuffs. He looked at her for a long moment. "Formidable," he said finally. He meant it. The ballroom was a shark tank wearing a tuxedo. Men with champagne and dead eyes. Women with perfect posture and careful smiles. The air tasted like power and rot. Tawana stayed close to Mihu, her hand in the crook of his arm, feeling the tension in his muscles like a wire pulled too tight. She smiled when she was supposed to smile. She nodded when she was supposed to nod. But her jaw ached from the effort of it, from performing calm inside a room that wanted to swallow her. The threat materialized at the bar. A man named Kang, broad-shouldered, drunk on more than champagne. His eyes moved over Tawana slowly, deliberately. The way men look when they want you to know they're looking. She felt it on her skin like something unclean. She kept her expression neutral, kept breathing. "So this is the waitress," Kang announced to the surrounding circle, his voice carrying easily across the nearest tables. "Didn't know you had a taste for the help, Mihu." A few people glanced over, then quickly looked away. The room understood what was happening, even if no one said it. Tawana felt the words land in her chest like something blunt, not surprising. She had spent her whole life in rooms that underestimated her. But this room was different. This room had cameras and consequences, and a man beside her whose arm had just turned to stone. She squeezed his hand once. A signal. A plea. "Don't." Kang smiled and pressed further. "Tell me, where exactly did you find her? On the clock or off?" The laughter that followed was quiet and vicious. Mihu moved. Not a shout, not a scene. Just a blur of controlled violence that ended with Kang pressed against a marble pillar. A steak knife from the nearest table held with surgical precision against his throat. Mihu's voice came out low and final. "She is not the help." He held the stillness for exactly as long as necessary, then stepped back, straightened his jacket, took Tawana's hand. "We are leaving." She walked out beside him with her head raised, every eye in the room following. She didn't look at the crowd. She looked at him, and something she had been carefully not naming began to take shape. The drive home was electric silence. When the penthouse doors closed behind them, Mihu turned to her and said something she didn't expect. "I'm sending you away." Tawana stared at him. "Tonight proved, I cannot protect you the way I believed," he said, his voice stripped of everything but honesty. "I have a plane, a new identity, enough money that you will never worry again. You leave Los Angeles tonight, and you never come back." He crossed to the window, stood with his back to the city. "I brought you into a war you didn't start. I used your kindness as a solution to my problem. That was wrong. You deserve a life." Tawana stood very still. This was the moment. The exit. Everything she hadn't dared hope for sitting right in front of her. She thought about the diner, the red apron, the last bus she always missed, the sister she sent money to every month from tips that barely covered her own rent. She thought about what her life looked like before this penthouse, before this man, before any of it. Small, exhausting. Hers. She could take the money, disappear, start over somewhere no one knew her name. Part of her wanted to. That part was louder than she expected. She thought about Mrs. Park at the kitchen island laughing at a card game, her small hands warm around a cup of tea, grabbing Tawana's hand and saying, "You are good for him. He just doesn't know it yet." She thought about the way Mihu had looked in the kitchen that night, bruised and exhausted, and quietly undone by a bowl of something warm. She walked toward him. "Mihu." He turned. "There's something I have to tell you," she said. "Something I should have said the first week." His eyes narrowed slightly. Tawana took a breath. "Your mother didn't wander into that diner by accident." The silence that followed was a different kind of silence. "She called me," Tawana said, 3 days before the storm. "She found me through a woman at her church who knows my aunt. She told me she was worried about you, that you were surrounded by people who wanted you dead, and you couldn't see it. She said she needed to find someone she could trust, someone outside your world." Mihu's face went very still. "She asked me to be there if she came in, to take care of her, to let things unfold the way they needed to." Tawana held his gaze. "I was already in that diner. I had already agreed. The rain, the timing, none of it was an accident." The weight of what she was saying settled into the room like something physical. "Your mother chose me," Tawana said quietly, "before you ever did." Mihu was motionless. Then something crossed his face that she had never seen there before. Not anger, not calculation. Something raw and undefended and completely human. "She knew," he said, more to himself than to her. "She knew I would never choose someone on my own. She said you needed someone who helped people when it cost them something, not out of fear, not for money." Tawana paused. "She said that was the only kind of person who could stand next to you and survive it." Tawana glanced toward Mrs. Park's usual chair at the kitchen island. It was empty. The woman who had arranged all of this was nowhere to be seen, and somehow her absence in that moment said everything. She had built the bridge and stepped off it. Whatever happened next was theirs alone to decide. Mihu turned to the window. The rain had returned, soft against 52 floors of glass, the city below blurred and trembling. When he turned back, his eyes held something she recognized. The look of a man setting down weight he had carried so long he had forgotten it wasn't supposed to be permanent. She could have just told me, he said. Would you have listened? A long pause. No, he admitted. Tawana crossed the remaining distance between them. She reached up and placed her hand against his jaw, feeling the tension there, the exhaustion, the years of it. I'm not leaving, she said. Not because I'm trapped, because I'm choosing to stay. Even knowing what I am, I know what you're trying to become, she replied. That's the one I'm staying for. Outside, the rain kept falling, washing Los Angeles clean one street at a time. And in the penthouse above the city, the warlord and the waitress stood together in the quiet after the storm, held in place by something neither of them had planned for. Something that had been arranged by a small, silver-haired woman who understood her son better than he had ever understood himself. This story is about more than a contract and a crisis. It is about a woman who led with her heart in a world that punished that. About a man who built walls so high he forgot doors existed. And about a mother who loved her son enough to engineer his rescue from the inside. Sometimes the most powerful thing in a room is not the man with the weapon. It is the woman who stayed when she didn't have to, who told the truth when lying was easier, who chose connection over safety, and changed everything. Tell me in the comments right now, did you see that twist coming? And where are you watching from? Los Angeles? Lagos? London? Nairobi? Cape Town? Toronto? Drop your city right now. Let's see how far Tawana and Mihu have traveled. And if you are not yet subscribed, what are you waiting for? Hit subscribe and the notification bell right now, because Part 2 is already written. Part 2 reveals what Mihu did in secret the morning after Tawana told him the truth, what he arranged, what it cost him, and the one person from Tawana's past who is about to walk into this story and threaten to burn everything down. Comment Part 2 below right now, because it is coming. And you do not want to be the one who missed it.